I never understood all the hate towards necromancers. Like, can't a man just raise a random family in peace? What's going on, YouTube? It's Tuesday at past 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so we have a whole new week's worth of weekly items. The first one is inside the Infinite Archive, inside of Apocrypha, which is a free-to-play zone if you've never been here before. And we start with Filer Ull's Antiquity Leads, and the very first one that he starts with us for is the Sabraton Lames. Now, this one is a pretty annoying lead because it comes from safe boxes. Again, if you have the ability to get add-ons, if you're on the newest PlayStation's Xbox or you have a PC that's not a brick, you should be able to get add-ons. And because of that, this is a bit more manageable to get as a lead. But if you don't, farming safe boxes can be relatively annoying inside of any zones. The Dovra Sabatons are by no means an essential mythic for the majority of the ESO player base to own. They're kind of fun. You basically sprint at people like the Flash, you gain some armor and deal some physical damage, and then you keep a little bit of armor for yourself afterwards. It's a fun mythic, by no means essential. Next up, we have the Unhallowed Runic Tomes. Now, these bad boys are also from an annoying lead that is also a lot better if you have the ability to use add-ons, because if you can see all the runestone spawns, this is relatively straightforward. Just go pick up runestones in the Deadlands and you're hunky-dory. Now, obviously, too, this is going to be part of an enchanting station, which would give you a free enchanting station if you were to get this. You don't need to have a previous existing enchanting station. Throw it right in your house. There's only 3 pieces of this, but still probably not worth purchasing, although I will admit I'm not a fan of either of how these two leads drop. This next one is Roxas the Warped, guys, but you can see this is actually how it looks here. It actually looks like a pretty decent shoulder, but interestingly, its value is not very high, at least on the open market. Now, I will say that there's only one current listing, and usually there's not a crazy amount of total listings, but you can see even over time, the value of this bad boy is just not worth 15,000 archival fortunes, especially now when you can get other stuff like consumable BPs, which have the ability to give you a little bit more money for value. This is value again, because the actual BPs are bind on pickup, but you can sell the finished product. So yes, while these BPs are not super good this week, sometimes usually you can find something that's worth at least 150,000+ gold, making these a little bit better as far as money on being able to make furniture that could potentially sell in the future. None of these are really screaming out at me, though, as ones that you should purchase. The base BPs are relatively valuable, as well as Stormhaven Treasure Maps is also an easy skip. Although heavy armor for companions is a pretty good gamble because you're guaranteed to get heavy armor. If you can get reduced cooldowns, increase health, or reduce damage taken, you have a pretty good odds there. You almost, 30 some odd % chance to get something that's relatively decent. So this is actually a pretty decent gamble for you. The books, however, it's just going to depend. Do you want a Hel Stevani song? You interested in song books? Feel free to sing those in Riften. And Kind March Strick's journal. You can also read the journal from them here as well. And next up, we have scripts. Now, I notoriously think that you should only buy scripts with gold or get them from daily quests. We do have Savagery Prophecy, we do have Flame Damage, and we have Thieves Swiftness. None of these jump out to me and say you need to buy these. Flame Damage is certainly a decent one to have to put on some skills, but overall, easily skippable until you can get it through daily quests. Or when we go to our second vendor here, we'll be able to see if we can get some good scripts for gold and not a premium currency. Next up is the Orange Revealing Flare, which realistically rarely gets used. I will say it's sometimes slotted to get major protection, but usually you're not actually using the flare. Sometimes people do to kind of put it on funnel points, make sure there's no sneaky Nightblades coming in. 10,000 archival fortunes or purchasing it from the War Researcher. You're probably going to buy from the War Researcher just because that's going to be purchasing it with alliance points. At 90,000 alliance points versus 10,000 archival fortunes, I'm taking 90,000 alliance points any day. But then we have our Infinite Archive body markings. These riddles are very cheap, but also definitely not worth it. And the mummified body parts, or Alfiq parts, excuse me, although Alfiqs are bodies-ish. You get 10 of these bad boys, you get a mummified Alfiq, but you could buy them, as you can see, for 3.3k gold. Literally about the same value as the actual archival fortunes itself. So even the bad furnishings, they're almost, 10 timesing their value. But then you come down here, it's like almost a 1-to-1 value. So don't buy these fragments. Next up, we have our scripts that can be purchased with gold. This is the Scholarium inside of Ivea. This is a free-to-play zone. You just have to unlock scribing. You can head on down here once you progress in the quest line, and you can talk to the Chronicler, and he is going to give you a rotational assortment of scripts. Everything up here is static. Everything down here is able to be purchased on a weekly rotational basis. We have Defile, Protection, Multi-Target, Class Mastery, and Crusader's Defiance. Now, of all of these, probably Defile is going to see the most utilization. It's just really convenient to defile your enemies, but there are also some really good other ways that people are putting on for their affect scripts, so it's just going to depend a little bit. I would definitely encourage you to buy it just if it's cheap and you don't do daily quests super often, or you really want to jump into PvP very quickly. Defile is just a great tool in the tool belt. Protection is okay. The problem with Protection is you just get it from so many other places, and I think it's a bit overrated. I prefer to get it from places like Undo or Revealing Flare. Multi-target is okay. I think multi-target is also one of those scripts that in the future, I'm like, if they add something good that can target multiple people, this could significantly see a bit of a boost. Class Mastery is static. And then Crusader's Defiance is certainly also a good one. Going to be a little bit more pricey on the gold, but again, if you get a duplicate of these, you can resell it back for 1,000 gold, making any of these investments here pretty decent. Crusader's Defiance, Defile, Protection, Multi-Target, none of these are bad. Defile, I would say, if you want to get into PvP, Crusader's Defiance is just a good one to have, especially as things, get buffed and nerfed. It's always good to have as many as possible, especially at least on one character that you main on. And finally, we're inside the Imperial Ciy. We have a rotational Imperial Ciy Telvar merchant inside of the Imperial Ciy sewers. If you ever need more information on finding these bad boys, ESOhelper.com, or homebrew website to help provide additional information about these bad boys. But we start with our golden necklaces, which we start with a really easy one because it is agility, maximum stamina, and some weapon and spell damage. Honestly, though, even as 3-piece sets, agility, in my opinion, is not a good one. It does have some nice, robust, arcane, and healthy variety, but it's not worth it. I think it's a 7 out of 10 as far as 3-piece sets go. Yes, there's a good chance you use this for a Mark and Ring build, but in my opinion, there's too many sets that are 8s, 9s, and 10s. They're actually worth investing, and as you can see, the agility set has been around for so long, it's averaging about 1,000 gold on average. That doesn't include it being gold quality, obviously, but still, you can't resell this anyway. Not worth 100k Telvar. No maidens, no good. Next up is another PvP set. Now this one's 2, 3, 4, and 5 are interesting. And it's a set that I don't even know if I want to try to pronounce. Phasalis Guile. It gives you health, healing taken, armor while in combat. Every 1 second you apply minor defile to enemies within 5 meters of you for 2 seconds, reducing their healing received and damage shield strength by 6%. It's a decent 5-piece bonus. The problem is that people are getting defiled pretty often. That it's 2025. It's just the state of Cyrodiil. Not a lot of good breathable air in there without getting hit by a bunch of scribable skills with Defile or all sorts of loosey-goosey sets. But it does give you another 5-piece of straight armor. It gives you 2 bars of health. It gives you a healing taken. It's still a pretty, I don't want to say great, good. It's in that kind of mixture. I'll give it an 8.0. Not worth investing into, in my opinion. As you can see, it's only worth about 10,000 gold if you wanted to try the set out. It's probably going to be one of those sets, though, where you're in a ball group and you're applying Defile and you're just kind of there like a Plague Bearer of Nurgle type build, and you're going to be relying on others to also provide the Pain Train. But that doesn't mean that you're also not getting a decent value for your 2 through 5 as well. Next up is the Blackened Moonstone Rivets, which actually comes from the Mantle Mythic. Now, unfortunately, it's just from a public dungeon, but this actual bad boy is a pretty decent mythic in my opinion. It's very finicky in the sense that it's competing with a lot of other mythics that want to do the same thing. It increases your damage done with non-ultimate heavy attacks. So you're not going to be able to become a crazy magic sorcerer just shooting off electricity out of your hands. It decreases your damage, however, done by light attacks by 50%. So you get an extra damage bonus to your heavy attacks and decreases your damage done by your light attacks, but dealing damage with their light attack, you see, either restores magicka or stamina, and the resource restore is treated as a heavy attack resource restore for potential bonuses and penalties. So if you have anything that would affect that, your heavy attacks will no longer restore resources at all. So bonus damage to heavy attacks, resource recovery from your light attacks. To me, this is a mythic that needs significant testing. I think it's a great mythic. I think it's at least an 8 or a 9 out of 10. It's very hard for me to scale it as far as a solo mythic because there's so many best in slot solo mythics. How does it compete against the Oaken Soul, the Velothi? There are so many mythics in that spot that I don't think it's like the monomyth where it immediately jumps to number 1. But I do think if you want an easy to pilot heavy attack build that has built-in easy resource restore and recovery in the sense that you just light attack to get resources back, it is a fantastic mythic for you to try out. Next up is the Golden Saint cameo. For some reason, the cameo is inside the Alakir Desert and is a world boss. So it's a great mythic. I love the Saint and Seducer. It's one of the most popular PvP mythics. It might be the most popular PvP mythic for the simple fact that people don't all have the monomyth yet because it's required by Solstice and you got to go dig it up, obviously. So for me, Saint Seducer is the most popular PvP mythic. This lead, however, is relatively straightforward. Stros Makai, also relatively straightforward. Yes, the gear that drops in there is pretty good, but there is no real chance to get any sort of good chase items that are going to give you tons and tons of gold that justify 6,000 TLDR. Yes, a heavy chest piece of trainee would be fantastic, but the value is just not there. Juice is not worth the squeeze. Then we have our rings of the sets that we reviewed earlier. Then we have our next round of scripts, which is Magic of Steel, not worth TLDR. Shock damage is decent. I know a lot of people love shock damage because you can get passive shock damage bonuses, but still probably not worth the squeeze. And Wayfarer's Mastery is definitely the best of the 3, probably. Maybe shock damage can give it a run for the money, but it's still not worth it for TLDR. And we finish off on a Fragment Obsidian Scar, which ironically does not drop from the Obsidian Scar that I was thinking of. It drops from the Obsidian Scar public dungeon final boss there, which is a relatively easy one to get, but you can see you get a little bit of a silvery difference here. I actually thought about making a YouTube video where I made a build that was dedicated to killing werewolves, and this was one of the things that I would go out and do. The problem is I don't see enough werewolves inside of Cyrodiil to justify a Van Helsing build, but I do think about it. It keeps me up at night. Ever since the Invis Pot werewolf incident, I always think to myself, I could just become a werewolf hunter. Screw trying to become the emperor or do any semblance of participation inside of Cyrodiil. I will only go and defeat werewolves, maybe vampires, but then at that point, you're just killing like 30% of the player base, and you might as well just make a build at that point. But everyone, thank you guys so much again for watching. A quick TLDR is a bit interesting this week because most of the mythics are going to really depend. Do you have the ability to go out and use add-ons that will point on the map, here where all the safe boxes are, here where all the rune stones are? That's going to make a pretty big difference. Heavy gear for equipment is very good for companions. There's no news about new companions coming out, so the market for companion gear is decently steady, so you don't have to worry too much about buying a bunch of those, but it's still a decent investment. As far as scripts inside of our weekly script vendor, I do love buying Defile with gold. I think it's highly underrated. Even in the current meta, which is not very shield focused, in a shield focused meta, you're going to see a lot of utilization with that, but that does also give you time to go out and get it naturally just by doing all those daily quests. We had some decent items in the TLDR merchant, but none really jumped out at me saying, oh, buy this right now. So thankfully, decent week to save your wallet, but also a decent week to consider some mythics if you do want to save some time with some premium currency, depending on your play style and what you value your time for. So thank you guys so much again for watching. We're doing our 3 giveaway drawings. All you need to do to enter is leave a like and comment on the video. Second thing is just make sure you're subscribed. We are less than, let me check here, 152 subscribers away from 33,000 subscribers. So please hit the subscribe button. And the third thing is look for a hidden word we flash upon the screen. There's always at least one hidden word per month on one singular video. Sometimes we do more, and stick around and look for that hidden word. We'll be live streaming one of these days this week, so get your Twitch drops. We'll talk about update 47 also coming up, as well as some builds that you guys sent to me to review. Some of you guys have actually already found immediate success based on a couple gear changes and tweaks to Mundus and things. So I'm glad to see that. So well, that'll be a fun little video series for us to do. Thank you guys again. Happy Tuesday, and I'll catch you later. Bye, guys.
You better. better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.